your time. And speaking of time, does anyone currently have the time in the room? You can say it. I want you to actually tell me. 10 what? What? 10:41. Thank you. Isn't it interesting that all of us in this room, we come from different roles, responsibilities, backgrounds, and experiences, but the one thing that knits us all together is this thing that we call time. No matter the fragrance you have on, no matter the clothes you have on, no matter if your beard connects or if you're whatever hairstyle you're rocking today, we've all been given this same gift, this gift that we call time. But how are you using it? How are you taking these sporadic moments and transforming them into significant movements? Pittsburgh-born pioneer of pop art Andy Warhol once said, "They always say time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself." You see, time moves, but that does not mean that we move with it. The process of a movement begins with a shift in how we think, a shift in how we see, and a shift in how we respond. Consider the women's suffrage movement, the civil rights movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, the Tea Party revolt that sparked a nation. Each of these movements began when someone took an ordinary, fleeting moment, saw their world in a dim light, and envisioned it shining brighter. Now, I must also say that movements don't just start by one person, because movements are built when moments connect. Think about the coordinated and staged defiance of Rosa Parks in Montgomery, Alabama. The unjust death of Trayvon Martin. The prophetic dreams that gave Harriet Tubman insight on how, when, and where to lead enslaved individuals to freedom. The whispers in Seneca Falls in 1848. Each of these moments gave us something called a movement. And that's how history is shaped. When moments don't stay in isolation, but they come together, one spark, one knit, one ignition after another, to give us something called a movement. So in this moment, you might be wondering, well, Corey, what does any of this have to do with gifted education? And my answer to you is everything. Because in gifted education, there are still moments that call us to movements, moments that don't desire us to stand and witness inequity or injustice, but call us to interrupt it. Moments that call us to go beyond programs and policies up to purpose. So let's talk about some of those moments today. There was a moment when Dr. Jonathan Plucker realized that excellence gaps were widening in gifted education, that students from marginalized backgrounds were being left behind. And in that moment, him, Dr. Scott Peters, and so many others gave us this gift called the Excellence Gaps Intervention Model, a model that allowed us to give access and more equity related to all types of students from all backgrounds. There was another moment when Dr. Donna Y. Ford, the field's fiercest truth teller, realized that when it came to gifted education, special education was opening their arms wide to culturally diverse students, but this thing that we call gifted and talented education, GATE, which spells gate, was closing the gate. There was another moment when Dr. Mary M. Frazier realized that traditional identification measures was not enough, that millions of students were being left behind based on the way that they were being seen in their classrooms. And in that moment, she gave us a multitude of teacher training programs, which we look at Frazier Talent Assessment Profile, as well as tabs, traits, aptitudes, and behaviors, allowing teachers to, what she said, pan for gold and discover the brilliance within their students. But before that, we also have Dr. E. Paul Torrance, the father of creativity, who realized that in communities and in schools, we were building students and cultivating this idea that they should be ripe for brainwashing and not ready to actually create the world that they lived in, the world that we live in today. And in those moments, he gave us this talent development program called Future Problem Solving, a program that allows students to solve futuristic problems using creative problem solving. But before all of these individuals, we then have the one, the only, the father of Black research and giftedness, Dr. Martin D. Jenkins, who realized back in the 1930s and even before then that Black students and culturally diverse students were not being allowed access to these programs based on eugenics, a movement that really said that students from diverse backgrounds did not have the biological traits to be seen as intellectual, to be seen as gifted, to be seen as genius. And in those moments, he gave us groundbreaking research, including the case of B, which was featured at the Jenkins Scholars Award, where we see that the same test that was used to say that our students were not enough was then used with a Black student named B, 9 years old, who outperformed many of her white peers. And that groundbreaking research began to dismantle this belief. So all of these moments, and please know countless others, I am not doing the field justice by shining a light on these. There's so many movements and moments that have happened in our field that we should celebrate, but the work is not done. And we look at our field today, we have grown so much. Schools are realizing that giftedness is not just a label that should be given to a certain few, but something that should be found and fostered in many. Teachers are abandoning bias identification tools. Districts are embracing universal screening, but the work is not done. Because despite all of this, despite how reflective gifted education is, despite how inclusive it is today, despite that it's no longer seen as this cool kids club or this system that was built in a integrated system but still had segregated notions, there's still work to be done, because every year over 500,000 students from culturally diverse backgrounds are still being left behind. And that statistic came over 10 years ago. What's the number today? So as I prepare to leave you in this moment, I want you to think that in our field, yes, the growth has happened, but there's more to be done. We don't need another program. We do not need another policy. We do not need another intervention. We do not need another initiative. We need you. We need a movement. We need a revolution. We need a new way of thinking, a collective uprising of purpose. Because the field has not grown to its potential until the portrait of every gifted learner, every high ability student is seen in every community, in every school, in every classroom. So if you believe in this moment that there's work to be done, whatever that moment is that's tickling in your brain, whatever that moment is stirring up in your soul, if you know there's more work to be done, I ask that you repeat after me. And say your name. Not enough, so let's do that again. I say your name. Commit to being the change. I commit to being the moment. I commit to being the movement. Because let's think about it, friends. The world that our gifted students are growing in are going to live in a world that you advocate for, a world that you create. So as my moment on this stage has expired, I want you to know that your moment has just begun. The movement has just begun. They always say time changes things, Dave, but you have to be the one to change it yourself. Thank you.